Hi, I'm Greg Watkins, Executive Director of the British Chamber of Commerce, Thailand. 2021 is BCCT's 75th anniversary, and one of the things we're doing is reaching out and reconnecting with some of the people who made BCCT what it is today. And today it's my great pleasure to introduce Alan Craig. Alan joined the BCCT board in 1996. He was Vice Chairman from 1998 to 2000 and Chairman in 2002. And while working in Thailand, he was Managing Director of CompuNet Corporation, which is the cable and wireless business in Thailand at that time. And in 1997, he set up his own business here, Survive in Asia. So a warm welcome, Alan. Tell us a little bit about your time on the BCCT board.
Well, first of all, Greg, I'd like to offer you and the Chamber my sincere congratulations. I was remarking to Napa, my wife, about how August, a 75th anniversary celebration is, and then I realized that's only 2 years older than I am. So I think we share a bit of age there. But really, congratulations, and also to this series of interviews, which I've enjoyed very much, seeing my old colleagues and comrades chatting away. My time on the board, I must apologize for the start. I'm no longer the professional, articulate, working businessman that your other, or business person that your other interviewees have been. So I'm not so au fait with current presentation methods. So anyway, I joined the British Chamber of Commerce in Bangkok, I think it was called at the time, BCCB. I thought it was a little bit earlier than what you said, but I'll go with your words, because the chamber was based in the BB building on Asok. And by luck, my office building was 3 floors above the BCCB building. And so I was a highly desirable person to get on the board, and I was co-opted by Brian Baldwin through Phil Chumsai, your predecessor. Why was I highly desirable? Because at that time, the traffic was immensely awful, and it took 2 hours to go 1 kilometer, for example. And so having a board member who could be depended on to make the meetings from 3 floors up was a very good attraction to the chamber. And surprisingly, you might not recognize it now, but at that time, the chamber struggled to fill its quota of board members. There was a real struggle every year to try and get enough people to do the job. Anyway, I really loved the heady mixture of chambers activities between business and social. As a newbie to Bangkok, I thoroughly enjoyed the introduction to other business people in Bangkok, British business people and Thai, and there were wider interests as well as the social side, which was very, very helpful and helped me navigate and negotiate my way through life in Bangkok. My lot of memories about the time there, and I'll go into some more detail about that later, but about how my time on the chamber was through the trade missions, the external trade missions that the chamber ran to various countries. And I hope to give some more detail about that later if we have time. But that was a very fun set of memories. And I was, as you mentioned in your opening preamble, I was one of the luckiest Brits in Bangkok to be able to join the board of the chamber, then go up to vice chair and finally be voted for chairman. It made me a very proud person, and I'm still proud of that today.
Excellent. What's your enduring memory of your time?
Well, there are so many of them. I've tried so hard to identify one or several, and I've got a few that I'm going to talk about. And they come from individual bits, little snippets of memory that I have. For example, one of your other interviewees, Jeremy Stewartson, the jacket that we both knew very well. I have a very fond memory of him and I in Phnom Penh, wandering along the banks of the Tonle Sap, discussing kleptocracy amongst the Thai government. And that's a very fond memory. There's another astonishing memory in the Thailand Tatler of the time. There was an amazing photograph of me as part of a line of British Chamber personnel, board personnel, being introduced to HRH Queen Elizabeth in Bangkok. And there's me kowtowing, touching the forelock. And it's quite amazing for a Scottish nationalist to see that picture. It's really very good. But I mentioned earlier on about the trade missions. We went to Kunming, Vientiane, Yangon at least twice, went to Phnom Penh several times. And I even led a partial trade mission to Mandalay. Now that was a very funny episode all by itself, because most of the trade mission, the British Chamber Trade Mission, left the mission in Yangon and went back to Bangkok from there, whereas only 4 of us were left to continue the trade mission up to Mandalay, where we were met by about 40 delegates from the Myanmar side. And we had our first meeting in this amazing hall that looked very like how the House of Commons is set out in UK. And so, but luckily we had our gift of the time was a bottle of whiskey. So we didn't do too badly after all. So that was it. And one thing I do recall very much so is, Greg, I think it was a time of my tenure, and certainly you and I sat down and plotted a strategy to bring the British Chamber and the British Embassy closer together on trade things, because the relationship had kind of soured in the past. And previously it had been quite close, I understand, but not in my time. But we worked on it, and we got the commercial councillor then, he started coming to the board meetings, and the ambassador started holding breakfast briefings for business members of the British Chamber of Commerce. And those business briefings became very prized possessions. A ticket to them became the golden ticket. And so I think we succeeded in that. And another memory that springs from that is around about the same time, the British ambassador and the director of the British Council both came to my wedding celebration with Napa, which you will remember because you very kindly were acting as an usher, more or less as an usher at the time. And by another amazing coincidence, the anniversary, the 20th anniversary of that wedding celebration that Barney Smith, yourself and Bhaskar came to, was October the 14th, 2021, just a couple of weeks ago. So it's very opportune. Yeah.
Fantastic. I mean, what's your sense of how Thailand has changed in the last 20 years or so?
I'm not going to be the best one to answer this because I'm not particularly a Thailand watcher. I'm retired. I've left Thailand, and I don't like to look back so much, apart from meeting up with dear friends such as yourself, Nick Moore, and even Jeremy occasionally. That's the main aspect. But however, what I've seen in the latter parts of the time I was there, and in photographs and videos that I watched from Napa's friends in Thailand, is the expansion of the transport infrastructure is just quite amazing. And it's unlike anything I've seen or heard of anywhere in the world at any time. It's a massive project, something to be really proud of. I mean, when we came, and being in the British Chamber of Commerce, Bangkok and Asok Road, who could ever have dreamt of sky trains and underground railway system? Who would ever have dreamt that Bangkok was well on its way to have an integrated metro system? It's quite amazing. Another point similar to this is the enhanced and almost gentrification of parts of Bangkok. The condos going up, I mentioned the transport lines, the malls, the shopping malls, the sporting facilities, etc. Now, it's not quite yet on the scale of a Beijing or a Shanghai, but the gentrification of neighborhoods is another notable thing. When we were I go back to the British Chamber of Commerce, Bangkok, when Brian Baldwin was the chairman, at that time it was the practice to have the board meetings at individual board members' offices. And we had this little game at the start of each meeting whereby we would stare out of the window, the nearest window in the board meeting office, and try to count the number of cranes that could be seen on the skyline. And that would be a simple metric for the Bangkok economy at the time. Now, I don't think you can look out and see so many cranes anymore. I'm sure there's still some. Development will never stop in Bangkok. But that used to be quite a humorous little metric that we used from month to month and year to year to assess the economy as it was then, you know. And you mentioned in several interviews with other past board representatives about the financial crash of 1997. Well, I do remember that hitting very, very hard, and two fond memories I have. Well, not so fun. At least one of our board member colleagues at the time was paid exclusively in Thai baht. And when the financial crash happened and the Thai baht to US GBP went to 96 baht to the pound, he was almost wiped out. And that was it really brought it close to home at that time. And the other little memory I have of that was when people woke up to the breakfast, the UK, to see me on BBC News, spouting on about how the crisis is just something we'll have to take care of and build into our business model. And that was people phoning me for days afterwards saying, we saw you. Luckily they did. I didn't see myself, but there you go. But that's the changes. I don't think Thailand's ever going to see a financial crash like that again. But and the physical changes in Bangkok are very evident. But the rest, I can't say because I'm not a Thailand watcher.
Tell us a little bit about what you're doing these days, because I'm sure you're not doing nothing. You're not retired, underlined, capital letter.
I am retired, underlined 10 times over. I am not working. I'm no longer networking. This is the phrase I stick to. But I do the simple things as an August member, almost at the age of the chamber itself. I've adopted I've embraced a more quieter lifestyle. You know, the person you see before you is the older model, the svelter model, because as we chatted about earlier, I set out when I came to UK to lose a lot of weight, and I did. I've lost over 30 kilos. So it is actually Alan Craig speaking here, not the roly-poly model that I used to be in Bangkok, but the older svelter model, I like to say. Anyway, now I spend a lot of time doing simple things like cooking, writing for myself, walking. A couple of years ago, before COVID hit, I went on a cycling trip with my mate in Budapest down the banks of the Danube. It was very beautiful, and we had many more trips planned, but COVID put paid to that. But hopefully next year we'll be able to start back on that. Mm-hmm. And we also, during COVID, we also missed our opportunity for the big holiday last year back to visit Thailand in Bangkok. We were coming over for a month, but COVID put paid to that. So we're planning that for next year. And so I'm going to see for myself what Thailand is like now in my retirement.
We look forward to seeing you. Fantastic. I mean, how do you see Thailand's role in the post-COVID world, Alan?
I have to caveat this again because I'm not a Thailand watcher and I'm not sufficiently up to date with every aspect of Thailand. It's more plus la même chose, you know. With Thailand, it seems to be. However, every country is trying to look for its new normal now. What's Thailand's new normal going to be? Because it's certainly not going to go back to the heady days of the previous tourism booms. Yes, there will be a lot of tourism. Tourism will be enhanced in Thailand again, and people will flock back. But will they flock back in the same numbers as before? And it was such a high contributor to the Thai economy. It's hard to see how that whole might be made up. Thailand, I think, has failed in one area. It continues to not do as well as it might have done in one area, which is the emancipation of its workforce. Most of its workforce still seems to be unskilled or semi-skilled, although there are pockets of great entrepreneurship and intelligence and skills. Much of the workforce still seems quite unable to adapt to the modern world that Thailand may wish to head towards. So there's a burden there in the education system and the training system to get the workforce up to a good standard to compete in the region for sure. What I mentioned there about the great skills and intelligence, the pockets, it has always astonished me how in various competitions worldwide, Thai folk have excelled in the various skills that they've shown, whether it's a mathematics competition or a physics or an invention competition. I think they're wonderful. And if that skill set could be deployed more widely, Thailand would still be a force to be reckoned with. Yeah.
Last question, Alan. What's your favourite place in Thailand, and what's your favourite thing to do here?
Well, there you go. There's lots of favourites there. I'm sorry, I can't apologise for that, because it's been a wonderful time. I spent 23 years in Thailand, many of them, most of them with the Chamber in its various guises, and I have many very fond memories. I lived in Koh Samui, I lived in Banglamung and Bangkok most of the time, spent a lot of time in Korat, and I have very fond memories of each of these places. But the British Chamber of Commerce in Thailand really helped me focus and helped me through the early stages and the later stages of my working life in Bangkok. The visits to the various destinations around the region and the site visits to Carlsberg and to the Eastern Seaboard, they're very fond memories. Also the airport, the new rail terminal at the airport, the underground system when it first opened, the that's Hong Kong. The airport, Old Swampy, yeah, Big Swamp Airport.
Suvarnabhumi.
Yeah, I'd forgotten its name there. We had visits out there as well. Really wonderful times. And I can't have this interview without mentioning the Christmas lunches and the various on-ons that happened after them. They were wonderful occasions. Add to that the networking nights and so on. I have so many fond memories and so many fond memories of different places I've been with the Chamber. I can't isolate one, but above all, it's been the opportunity to have friendships with yourself, Greg, with Jeremy, as I mentioned, and Nick Moore. That's been a great experience for me. And I hope these are abiding, lifelong friendships and memories.
Well, they certainly are from my part, and it's great that you and Napa will be coming back next year once we've got this COVID situation balanced in most of the world at least. Fantastic, Alan. It's great to connect. Thanks for your time. Have a great rest of the day. And I must compliment you on interview for having the best, most decorative backdrop of all the interviewees that we've done. Fantastic.
As I mentioned earlier, Greg, this is our Charles Rennie Mackintosh room. So I'm very proud to host it in here. And thank you so much for the opportunity to chat about memories. It's lovely, Greg. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Alan.
Bye then.
Bye-bye.